Today we're going to talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare, how to collect, how to track, and how to report on your program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the Family Drug Court program is operating on the ground. Now, to make this session as interactive as possible, please use the WebEx chat to respond to any question that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question on your screen here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data. Alexis has posted clarity around the performance measurement definitions. Heather has posted cross-agency reporting restrictions. Starlene has posted County of San Luis Obispo Family Treatment Center. Rachel has posted, I would say, operationalizing definitions to our local site, and Rachel Hogan, Greene County, Missouri. Alicia has posted reporting mechanisms. Megan has posted courts are individualized. Each has their own system or no system. Jennifer has posted clarity of the measures and how to operationalize in our program. Julie has posted we are at the state level and many of the local sites do not have case management systems or staff time to enter it. And Starlene has posted collecting follow-up data, especially after clients leave the program. Bridget has posted Lewis and Clark, First Judicial Branch, cross-reporting addition availability, clarification on questions. Kenneth has posted timely user data entry. Wayne has posted obtaining data from various organizations, also tracking many performance measures. Shodel, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly. Local reporting mechanisms. Kevin has posted Baton Rouge Juvenile Court, clarity of measures. Mia has posted unsure how statewide grantees would collect this information from numerous courts. Carmen has posted clarity on performance measure definitions, such as those served versus those served during the reporting period on the same report. Jennifer has posted limited staff time and clarity concerning data definitions. Jennifer has posted also difficulty getting data post-participation. Wayne has posted yes, collecting follow-up data post-completion. And Jennifer has posted clarity and follow-up data. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the agenda. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information. Lastly, we're going to review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented to you in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation that will be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measure updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, reporting in January 2022. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates, And as we all know, those due dates are twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. Lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. In the sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle, with the goal of reporting January 2022 on these newly revised program measures. I'd next like to pass the microphone to Ludmil, who will go over your program with you and the newly revised performance measures. Ludmil?
Thank you, Rebecca. So in the intervention division, we have several programs. As Rebecca said earlier, the program we will focus on today is the Family Drug Court Program. The desired result for the Family Drug Court Program is to employ a family-centered collaborative approach to address parental substance use disorder, SUD, and parenting issues by increasing the use of family drug courts to ensure child safety, stable parental recovery, receipt of needed services and supports for each family member, as well as preventing recidivism. Family Drug Court plans to achieve this result by working on the following program outcomes. 1, increase the number of jurisdictions operating a family drug court that are in alignment with best practices for family drug courts. 2, reduce substance use and relapse by parents or guardians with a SUD involved in a drug court. 3, prevent new substantiated cases of child abuse and neglect for parents or guardians with a SUD. And 4, children of family drug court participants achieve permanency. Some additional information to keep in mind. Family drug courts are specialized courts within the justice system, which handle cases of child abuse and neglect that involve substance use by the child's parents or guardians. Grants are intended to fund family-centered collaborative approaches to address parental substance use and parenting issues. Under this program, grantees report on the following measures: individuals served, service delivery, training and technical assistance, collaboration, systems improvement, protective factors, productive lives, program quality, implementation, and lastly, child welfare system. Now a little bit about our framework. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures include 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are results of activities such as trainings or meetings. Outcomes speak to the larger and long-term program goal. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way you collect data, and that's why we're here today, to ensure you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the January 2022 submission period, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measures outcomes establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures at this online location located on your screen here. Performance measures by category. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations: shared targeted populations, such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth; 2, those with similar service delivery models, such as mental health services or prevention services, and 3, those with shared outcomes, such as youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. So we will now take a look at the performance measures for your program. We will not go through all of them. However, we will highlight some of them, specifically those that may prompt questions over the next 6-month data collection period and continuing through the life of the award. So our first overall measure here today is number of individuals served by a population. This is our revised youth family served measure. The revised measure is more expansive, so by updating the language from youth to individuals served, it is now broader. Grantees can more accurately reflect the population they serve. Our team also expanded the definition to include legal guardians and additional family members. And all demographics are broken down by age. We updated the measure to ensure grantees submit more accurate data on their organization and work. Our next overall measure is number of family units served. Family units is defined as a group of individuals living in one household related by blood or legal relation, and is considered to be a family unit. To be served means a program, organization, or system admitted an individual and actively provided them services funded by OJJDP. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of family units served. Now we'll highlight some multi-program performance measures. Our first multi-program measure is percentage of eligible individuals served by a substance use disorder treatment service. To report on this measure, you will collect data on the number of individuals served who receive substance use disorder treatment service. The definition of this measure is services that help an individual with a substance use disorder to improve a situation, relieve symptoms, manage a crisis, or deal with an issue through communication with and attention given to the individual experiencing the issue. Treatment usually involves a developmentally appropriate intervention or therapy. The percentage is calculated by dividing the number of individuals who received substance use disorder treatment services by the total number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible individuals served by parenting education services. We define this measure as a process that involves the expansion of insights, understanding, attitudes, and the acquisition of knowledge and skills on the development of both parents and of their children and the relationship between them. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of individuals served by parenting education services. The percentage of eligible individuals served by parenting education services is calculated by dividing line A, number of individuals served by parenting education services, by the total number of individuals served during the activity period. Percentage of eligible individuals or eligible families who exhibit improved family functioning. This measure is one of our protective factors outcomes. Protective factors, conditions, or attributes that help promote the well-being and overall success of children and families. We define family functioning as interactions with family members that involve physical, emotional, and psychological activities. For this measure, you will provide the number of eligible families who receive services to improve families' functioning. Then, the number of eligible families who exhibited improved family functioning. The percentage of eligible families who exhibit improved family functioning is calculated by dividing line B by line A. The percentage of eligible individuals served by medical and/or dental services. Medical or dental services include services, but not limited to physician services, nurse and therapist services, dental services, hospital services, and skilled nursing facility services. These are all services that are considered necessary or specifically requested for a health purpose. For this measure, you provide the distinct count of individuals who receive medical and or dental services. The percentage is calculated by dividing line A, number of individuals who receive medical and or dental services, by the total number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible individuals served by transportation services. We define transportation services to include direct transportation or assistance with accessing transportation such as providing mass transit cards, tokens, fares, or vouchers. For this measure, like the previous one, you will provide the distinct count of individuals who receive services. The percentage is then calculated by dividing line A, number of individuals who receive transportation services, by the total number of individuals served. Percentage of eligible families with improved family well-being. This is another one of our protective factors. Family well-being refers to safety, health, and financial security of the whole family. For this measure, you will first provide the distinct count of eligible families who receive services to improve family well-being. Then, you will provide the number of eligible families who exhibited improved family well-being. The percentage is calculated by dividing line B, number of eligible families who exhibited improved family well-being, by line A, number of eligible families who receive services to improve family well-being. The average length of stay for children in out-of-home care. This measure captures the average length of time in days that children remain in out-of-home care during the reporting period. Grantees will provide the distinct count of the total number of days between entering and exiting out-of-home care during the reporting period, and the distinct number of children placed in out-of-home care during the reporting period. The average length of stay for children in out-of-home care, line C, is calculated by dividing the total number of days between entering and exiting out-of-home care, line A, by the number of children placed in out-of-home care, line B. Percentage of recommendations employed by a family drug court. So there are two implementation outcomes in family drug court programs and the newly revised performance measures. This is the first one. The first of the percent of individuals employed by a family drug court. In this measures, grantees will report on line A, number of recommendations employed by family drug court, and line B, number of family drug court recommendations. The family drug court guidelines outline the policies and practices on how to establish, manage, and operate a family drug court using evidence-based and effective practices. The family drug court guidelines outline 10 specific recommendations that are listed on the slide. For this measure, you will first provide the number of recommendations employed by a family drug court. Then you will provide the number of family drug court recommendations. The percentage is calculated by dividing the number of family drug court recommendations by line A, number of recommendations employed by a family drug court. And now on to our program-specific measures. These are measures pertaining specifically to your program. So the first program-specific measure we'll be covering for family drug court is the number of new family drug courts established. This performance measures captures the number of new family drug courts established. We define a family drug court as a specialized court within the justice system which handle cases of child abuse and neglect that involve substance use by the child's parent or guardian. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of new family drug courts established. Our next program-specific measure, percentage of eligible individuals discharged from a family drug court. Discharge refers to when a family drug court participant officially exits a program. There are several types of discharges, including neutral, successful, and unsuccessful. Neutral discharge, the participant withdraws from the program of their own desire, not to avoid a termination. This can happen when a participant moves out of the court's jurisdiction. Successful discharge. The family drug court graduation, meaning the individual completed all program requirements. Other successful discharges include parents maintaining a substantial period of sobriety and made progress towards meeting program goals and requirements. but due to employment, education, reunification, the parent can no longer commit to the time required to complete the program. And lastly, unsuccessful discharge. Participants fail to appear at Family Drug Court weekly team meetings. Participant refuses to participate in basic requirements of the Family Drug Court program, or the parent jeopardizes the safety of another client in the program. For this measure, you will provide the distinct count of eligible individuals discharged from a Family Drug Court, and the unique count of eligible individuals with neutral, successful, and unsuccessful discharges. The last measure we will discuss today is the percentage of eligible individuals who remained at home and not separated from a parent. We define an eligible individual as a child, youth of a parent guardian enrolled in a Family Drug Court. Remained at home and not separated from a parent refers to when a family court rules that the child or youth can remain living at home with their parent or guardian. Newly enrolled parent or guardian refers to an individual who began their involvement in the Family Drug Court as a new admission during the activity period. A carried over parent or guardian is a parent or guardian who was involved in a Family Drug Court in the previous activity period and continued their involvement during the current activity period. For this measure, you will provide the number of children and or youth of a parent or guardian enrolled in a Family Drug Court, and all listed by their age demographics here. I will now pass the presentation back to Rebecca.
Thank you, Ludmil. We have a short scenario for you. Brenda Sokup, a new drug court awardee, has just received the newly updated performance measures. She's attended this learning event, and she's sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection in the July to December 2021 period, reporting in January 2022? Wayne has posted she needs to review the performance measures. Rachel has posted start with operationalizing definitions and bring those to the table that will help provide the data. And Wayne has posted she needs to develop a data retrieval mechanism. Starlene has posted read through your grant and the PowerPoint. Jeff has posted she needs to find an MIS that includes the performance measures. Good, good. Many of you are noting to familiarize yourself with these definitions and questions. Also determining who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data, and who will be responsible for reporting the data into JustGrants in January 2022. Starlene has added create spreadsheets to initially track. Wayne has added she needs to set up data communication systems between evaluators and program staff. Sarah has posted open JustGrants on the performance measure questions. Kevin has posted need to review current methods to see how they will differ from new methods. And Bridget has posted review performance measures, download data that she has available, develop data spreadsheet, review measures, start collecting data monthly. Thank you. Just to clarify, we have a question that was posed on this slide in a previous session, and when we're talking about collecting data and reporting, one mention here of the FY19 and prior grantees will continue to collect reports in the PMT and submit them in JustGrants during the July submission period. So we encourage all FY19 and prior grantees who can close out during the July submission period to do so. FY20 grantees will continue to report on and submit narrative questions in JustGrants during the July submission period. All FY20 grantees plus FY19 and prior grantees whose award has not yet ended will report on the newly revised performance measures in JustGrants beginning January of 2022. Let's move on to the next slide, and we'll talk about best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measures for your program, understanding what each question is asking, and determining what that answer could be, even if that answer is a 0. Creating a plan to identify when and how to collect the data. For example, will you use an Excel spreadsheet to track your data? Do you have a tool or instrument that has been validated and or used before? Do you know how accurate this tool or instrument is, and who will be collecting the data and using the instrument? There are several best practices you can implement when collecting data for the upcoming reporting cycle. Be proactive in your approach. Designate staff for the coordination of the performance measure data collection process. Review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering data. Ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. Pay attention to communication from JustGrants. And lastly, review, edit, and validate data with subgrantees for submission if applicable. You're required to enter data on all performance measures that relate to activities described in your approved OJJDP grant application and carried out with OJJDP funding. As a grantee, you should plan to collect data on behalf of all of your subgrantees. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions that you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage your documents over that time period? Will you, again, track them using an Excel spreadsheet or another resource? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permission? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? Next, we'll review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address these topics. What do the numbers you've reported on in your performance measures mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric output to the tangible outcome. You want to use specific and detailed concrete examples to illustrate your point. And other things to think about include providing evidence to support your conclusions. What has funding allowed you to do that you could not do prior to receiving funding? And could include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to the program. On your screen, you see an example. This is just an example of a narrative for your review. Let's discuss best practices for reporting in JustGrants. Common issues arise since you are required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a 0 value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description such as we are still in our planning period or there was no activity during the reporting cycle are acceptable responses in JustGrants. Avoiding duplication and count can also be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager, can help ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is awards-based. Another best practice for those of you with multiple awards when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down funding, creating a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award. You want to contact JustGrants with any concerns related to error messages found in JustGrants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time in JustGrants. And for more information such as this, please visit the YouTube video using the link provided on the screen and also posted in chat. Lastly, you may want to contact the PMT Helpdesk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You're encouraged to reach out to your program manager with questions or concerns. As mentioned previously, some grantees may receive funding from other awards. A service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You'll be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 and January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th and January 30th, as we mentioned earlier. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, also known as PII, should be done with considerations towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individuals to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or similar locked enclosures. And when using sensitive PII, keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields, where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You're encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields, because project partners do not have access to files, for example, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As the best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports, as well as with your program specialist. So, how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you have not been collecting detailed data on individuals served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer here is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to next pass the microphone to Muniba, who will discuss various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where to find additional assistance. The PMT Helpdesk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing ojjdp@ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage grant award administrators to send us an email. The OJJDP PMT Helpdesk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PNC Helpdesk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. If you have questions about the JustGrants system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with JustGrants, we strongly encourage grant award administrators to reach out to JustGrants support. JustGrants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in JustGrants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into JustGrants at justgrants.usdoj.gov. Thank you. Now back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Muniba. Let's take a moment to reflect on what was just presented. First, we discussed each of the program-specific family drug court performance measures, noting the specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we talked about best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. An important takeaway is the fact that OJJDP does understand that data collection is beginning, and organizations, agencies, and subawards need time to review, process, and create a data collection plan. Some indicators will be easier to collect than others. We encourage you to work with your partners, TTA providers, on a data collection plan. So, what's next? Next steps include the opportunity we all have to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You will be receiving a fillable feedback form that you are requested to complete and return to the PMT Helpdesk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measure gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or challenges that you face implementing that particular measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred and we have identified changes or updates. For now, however, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And that concludes today's session.